The council chamber stretched wide enough to hold representatives from 40 different worlds. Hyunwoo stood near the back where the newer species always gathered. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 30 years ago, and humans still did not have full voting rights. Most days, Hyunwoo simply listened and took notes. Nobody asked for his opinion. Today felt different. The emergency summons had come without warning. Representatives rushed in looking worried, some even frightened. Hyunwoo had never seen the council like this before. The lights dimmed. At the center of the chamber, a platform rose from the floor. On it stood Velthoria, the royal seer. She was ancient beyond measure, her crystalline body reflecting light in strange patterns. Some said she had lived for 1,000,000 years. Others claimed she existed outside of normal time itself. "The signs have returned," Velthoria announced. Her voice echoed through every translator in the room. The consuming dark stirs once more. A wave of panic swept through the chamber. Hyunwoo had heard stories about the dark, but he always thought they were legends, scary tales parents told their children. The way everyone reacted now told him the stories were real. 10,000 years ago, the Apex ruled this galaxy. The Seer continued. They were the first intelligent species, the most powerful. They built wonders we can only dream of creating. Then the consuming dark came. In less than a century, the Apex were gone. Every world, every station, every ship. Erased completely, the chamber fell silent. Hyunwoo felt cold despite the comfortable temperature. "We thought the dark had vanished with them," Velthoria said. "We were wrong. 3 days ago, our sensors detected energy patterns in the dead zone. The same patterns that appeared before the Apex fell. The dead zone. Hyunwoo knew that name. It was a massive region of space where nothing lived. Hundreds of star systems, all empty, all dead. The council had declared it forbidden territory centuries ago. A tall representative from the Veltorian Empire stood up. His species had claimed the title of strongest civilization after the Apex disappeared. "What proof do you have, Seer?" "The dead zone has been quiet for millennia. I have seen it with my own eyes," Velthoria replied. "I was there when the Apex fell. I watched the dark consume world after world. I know its signature, and now it has returned, in the exact coordinates where the Apex throne world once stood." Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop. He pulled out his datapad and quickly checked something. His hands started shaking. Those coordinates were only 15 light-years from New Busan, one of Earth's largest colony worlds. He stood up without thinking. "Excuse me." Every eye in the chamber turned toward him. Hyunwoo felt his face grow hot. Junior species did not interrupt council sessions. But this was too important. "Yes, human?" The Veltorian representative sounded annoyed. "Those coordinates," Hyunwoo said. "They're close to human space. Very close." Several representatives made sounds that might have been laughing. One of them spoke up. "Impossible. No species can survive in or near the dead zone. Your colonies must be somewhere else." "No," Hyunwoo insisted. He held up his datapad. "We have 17 colonies in that region. They've been there for decades. All of them are thriving." The laughter stopped. Now everyone looked confused instead of amused. "That cannot be," the Veltorian said. "We sent expeditions into that area 500 years ago. None returned. The radiation alone should kill any known life form within days." "I don't know what to tell you," Hyunwoo replied. "But our people are living there right now. I can show you the colony reports if you want." Velthoria had been silent during this exchange. Now she moved, her crystalline body gliding across the platform toward Hyunwoo. She stopped directly in front of him. Her eyes, if they could be called eyes, seemed to look through him rather than at him. "Come closer, human," she said softly. Hyunwoo stepped forward. His legs felt weak. The seer reached out one translucent hand and held it near his chest. She did not touch him, but Hyunwoo felt something like electricity passing through his body. Velthoria gasped. It was a small sound, but in the silent chamber everyone heard it. "Impossible," she whispered. "It cannot be. What is it?" The Veltorian representative demanded. "What do you sense?" The seer pulled her hand back slowly. She looked at Hyunwoo with something that might have been wonder or might have been fear. "The Apex signature," she said. "He carries the Apex genetic marker." The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages. Some accused Hyunwoo of fraud. Others demanded an immediate investigation. The Veltorian representative looked furious. "This is absurd," he roared. "Humans are a young species, primitive. They only left their homeworld 200 years ago. How could they possibly carry apex genetics? Hyunwoo felt dizzy. I don't understand. What does this mean? Velthoria turned back to address the full council. I do not understand it either. But I know what I sense. This human carries genetic markers identical to those the apex possessed. Not similar. Identical. Then he must have stolen apex artifacts, someone suggested. Perhaps contaminated himself somehow. No, the seer said firmly. These markers are not surface contamination. They are woven into his fundamental biology. He was born with them. Hyunwoo's mind raced. This did not make any sense. Earth scientists had mapped human DNA completely. Nobody ever mentioned anything about alien genetics. Could there have been a mistake? A cover-up? I request permission to examine the human more closely, Velthoria said, and to send a research team to these human colonies in the dead zone. If humans can survive there when no other species can, we must understand why. Agreed, several representatives said at once. The Veltorian representative stood again. I object. This is clearly some kind of trick. Humans trying to claim a heritage they have no right to. The apex were the galaxy's rulers. These primitives cannot possibly be connected to them. Nevertheless, Velthoria said calmly, we will investigate. The truth will reveal itself. As the council session continued, Hyunwoo sat down heavily. His hands still shook. He thought about New Busan and the other colonies. Thought about his sister who lived on New Seoul, another world in that region. Millions of humans lived in the dead zone, never knowing they were supposed to be dead. And now, according to an ancient seer, they carried the genetics of a civilization that ruled the galaxy before humanity even existed. Hyunwoo pulled out his communication device. He needed to contact Earth immediately. The government needed to know about this. Scientists needed to start testing people, because if the seer was right, everything humans thought they knew about themselves was wrong, and if the consuming dark was truly returning, humanity might be in more danger than any other species in the galaxy. Or perhaps, a small voice in the back of his mind suggested, they were the only ones who could survive it. The salvage ship drifted through the darkness like a small fish in an enormous ocean. Captain Ji-hee checked her instruments for the 5th time in as many minutes. Everything looked normal, but nothing about this felt right. We shouldn't be here, her co-pilot muttered. The dead zone is restricted for a reason. We're just following the distress beacon, Ji-hee replied. That's not against any law. It was a weak excuse and everyone on the crew knew it. The distress beacon had appeared 3 days ago, broadcasting from deep inside the forbidden zone. Earth Command had ignored it. Too dangerous, they said. Not worth the risk. But Ji-hee and her crew were independent contractors. They made their living finding lost ships and abandoned equipment. A distress beacon this far out probably meant something valuable, something worth claiming. There, Taehyun said from the sensor station. Visual contact. The view screen lit up with an image that made Ji-hee forget how to breathe. It was massive. Bigger than anything she had ever seen. A curved section of metal and crystal that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Part of something even larger that must have been destroyed long ago. Is that? The co-pilot whispered. Is that part of a Dyson sphere? Looks like it, Ji-hee said. Her voice sounded strange in her own ears. Taehyun, are you getting any radiation warnings? Negative, Captain. Background radiation is actually lower than normal space. It's like something is filtering it out. That made no sense. The dead zone was supposed to be flooded with deadly radiation. Every expedition that came here reported the same thing before their ships failed. Take us closer, Ji-hee ordered, slow and careful. As they approached, more details became visible. The structure was covered in symbols. Thousands of them, maybe millions. Different sizes, different styles. Some looked like writing. Others looked like warnings, those symbols, Taehyun said. I'm running them through the translation database. Most of them are dead languages. Really dead. Like extinct for millions of years. Can you read any of them? Ji-hee asked, working on it. Give me a few minutes. The ship moved closer until it was nearly touching the ancient structure. Ji-hee suited up along with 2 other crew members. If they were going to claim salvage rights, they needed to actually set foot on the thing. The airlock opened onto a surface that looked almost new, despite its obvious age. Ji-hee's boots made soft clanking sounds as she walked. Her suit lights cut through the darkness, revealing more symbols. Captain, Taehyun's voice crackled in her helmet. I've got a partial translation on some of the outer symbols. They're warnings. What kind of warnings? Turn back. Death lives here. The dark consumed all. Do not wake what sleeps. That sort of thing. Cheerful, one of the other crew members said. They found an opening after 20 minutes of walking. It might have been a door once. Now it was just a hole leading into darkness. Jihai pointed her light inside. There's an atmosphere, her suit computer announced. Breathable. No toxins detected, and how is that possible? Jihai wondered aloud. No idea, Captain. But the readings are solid. They went inside. The corridor beyond stretched far into the distance. Emergency lights flickered to life as they walked, responding to their presence after thousands of years of waiting. This place still has power, Jihi said. After all this time. The corridor led to a vast chamber. Consoles lined the walls, all of them dark. In the center stood a pillar covered in crystalline panels. Taehyun moved toward it immediately. This is a data archive, he said. His voice shook with excitement. An actual Apex archive. Do you understand what this means? Nobody has found intact Apex data in centuries. Can you access it? Jihai asked. Maybe. The technology is way beyond ours, but the principles should be similar. Taehyun pulled out his portable computer and connected it to the pillar using a standard interface cable. I can't believe this is working. The crystalline panels suddenly blazed with light. Images appeared in the air above the pillar. Moving pictures showing things that Jihai could barely comprehend. Cities that covered entire continents. Ships the size of moons. Millions of beings moving through impossible architecture. These are records, Taehyun breathed. Historical records of the Apex civilization. The images changed. Now they showed darkness spreading across space, a blackness that ate stars, worlds going silent one by one, fleets of ships trying to fight back and failing, entire populations vanishing. The consuming dark, Jihai said. We're watching the fall of the Apex. The images continued. Desperate evacuation efforts, scientists working frantically in laboratories, and then something that made Jihai's blood run cold. A planet, blue and green, covered in oceans and continents. A world that looked exactly like Earth. Taehyun, she said slowly. Is that what I think it is? I don't know. Let me see if I can extract the text files. His fingers flew across his keyboard. Got something? It's badly corrupted, but I can read pieces. He read aloud as lines of translated text appeared on his screen. Project Final Garden. Location classified. Third planet in System Sol. Genetic seed banks prepared. Memory wipe protocols engaged. The dark cannot find what does not know itself. We hide our children in the youngest soil. May they grow strong in our absence. May they survive where we could not. The chamber fell silent except for the humming of ancient machinery. They came to Earth, one crew member whispered. The Apex came to Earth. Not just came, Taehyun said. He kept reading, his voice getting quieter with each line. They seeded humanity with their own genetics. Hid it deep in our DNA made us forget. We're not just similar to them. We are them, are what they became. Jihai felt like the floor had dropped away beneath her feet. That's impossible, is it? Taehyun looked up at her. Think about it, Captain. How is it that we're the only species that can survive in the dead zone? How is it that human colonies thrive where everyone else dies? Maybe we're not surviving despite the Apex legacy. Maybe we're surviving because of it. Before Jihai could respond, the archive made a different sound. A new hologram appeared. This one showed an Apex elder, tall and graceful, wearing robes that seemed to be made of starlight. The hologram spoke. The translation came through their suit computers. If you are watching this, then you have found what we hid. If you understand our language, then you carry our genetic markers. You are the inheritors, the ones we planted in secret soil. We pray you have grown strong. We pray you have adapted where we could not. The elder's expression became sad. The consuming dark could not be stopped. It destroyed everything we built, everything we were. But it operated on logic. It searched for Apex genetics in their pure form. We changed you, made you different enough that the dark would not recognize what you truly are. We hid our legacy inside a young species on a forgotten world, and we erased all records of what we had done. The hologram flickered. Forgive us for the burden we have placed upon you. Forgive us for hiding the truth of what you are. We had no choice. You are our final hope, our last children. If the dark returns, you must be ready. You carry within you the tools to fight it. The knowledge is in your blood, in your DNA, waiting to be awakened. The hologram began to fade. Remember us not as we were, but as what we should have been. Grow strong, inheritors. The galaxy needs you more than you know. The image vanished. The archive went dark. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Jihai's communication device beeped. A message from Earth Command. Urgent priority, she read it once. Then again. Then a third time. They want us back immediately, she said. The Galactic Council is demanding genetic tests on all humans. Ambassador Hyunwoo testified that humans carry apex markers. Now everyone wants answers. They're going to lose their minds when we show them what we found, Taehyun said. Yeah, Jihai agreed. She looked around at the ancient chamber one more time. They probably will. She just hoped humanity was ready for the truth about what they really were. The emergency summit took place on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a dead star. Every major species sent their top scientists and political leaders. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Jae-won stood backstage reviewing his presentation one last time. His hands trembled slightly. He was about to present evidence that would change everything humanity thought about itself. No pressure, you ready? Daeun asked. She had flown in from Earth just that morning with the latest test results. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She probably had not slept in days. As ready as I'll ever be, Jae-won replied. Did you double-check the genetic sequences? Triple-checked. Then had 4 other labs verify them independently. Daeun handed him a data chip. The evidence is solid. Human DNA contains genetic markers that are millions of years old. They don't match any evolutionary path on Earth. They're completely foreign, and they're identical to samples recovered from Apex ruins. The Council is going to think we faked it, Jae-won said. Let them think what they want. The data doesn't lie. A staff member poked his head backstage. Dr. Jae-won, you're on in 2 minutes. Jae-won took a deep breath and walked out onto the stage. The auditorium held representatives from 20 different species. Most of them looked skeptical. The Veltorian delegation in particular looked actively hostile. Thank you for coming, Jae-won began. His voice echoed through the translation systems. I know many of you doubt what Ambassador Hyunwoo reported to the Council. You think humans are lying or confused. I'm here to show you the truth. He activated his presentation. The first slide showed a DNA helix. This is human DNA. Standard genetic code, same as what most carbon-based life forms use. But hidden in what we used to call junk DNA, we found something unusual. The image zoomed in on specific sequences. These markers, they don't belong. They serve no apparent function in human biology. For years we ignored them, until the Royal Seer identified them as apex genetic signatures, someone in the audience said. Exactly, Jae-won confirmed. Once we knew what to look for, we started testing. Every human we tested has these markers. 100% occurrence rate. They're not contamination. They're not recent additions. They're part of our fundamental biology. The next slide showed a timeline. These genetic sequences are old. Really old. We used molecular clock analysis to date them. The results suggest these markers entered human DNA approximately 10 million years ago. Murmurs spread through the audience. 10 million years ago, humans did not exist. Earth was still inhabited by early apes. That's impossible, a Veltorian scientist declared. Humans only evolved recently. Your species is barely 200,000 years old. I know, Jae-won said, which brings me to my theory. What if human evolution wasn't entirely natural? What if it was guided? He brought up the next slide. It showed Earth from space. I call this the Garden World theory. Evidence suggests that the apex civilization, knowing they were facing extinction, chose Earth as a genetic vault. They seeded our ancestor species with their own genetic code. Then they left us alone to evolve naturally over millions of years. Why would they do that? Someone asked. To hide from the consuming dark, Daeun said. She had joined Jae-won on stage. The dark was programmed to identify and eliminate apex genetics. But if you buried those genetics inside a completely different species and let that species evolve naturally over millions of years, the result would look nothing like the original apex. She brought up genetic comparison charts. Look at this. Modern human DNA is maybe 5% apex sequences. The other 95% is purely Earth-based evolution. We're not apex, we're human, but we carry their legacy hidden inside us, camouflaged by millions of years of natural selection. This is speculation, the Veltorian representative said. You have no proof the apex deliberately seeded Earth. Actually, Jae-won said, we do. He played the video that Captain Jihai had sent from the Dyson fragment. The Apex Elder's message filled the screens around the auditorium. When it finished, the room stayed silent for a long moment. They called Earth the youngest soil, J1 said quietly. They hid humanity, their final children, on a world nobody else would notice. They made us different enough that the dark wouldn't recognize us, and they erased all records of what they'd done. If this is true, another scientist said slowly, it would explain many anomalies. Humans have shown unusual resistance to certain types of radiation. Your immune systems are remarkably adaptable. Your ability to survive in hostile environments exceeds what your evolutionary age should allow. We thought we were just lucky, Dayun said. Turns out we were engineered. The Veltorian representative stood up. His face showed barely controlled anger. This is unacceptable, he declared. For 3,000 years, my people have held the title of Second Apex. We earned that title through our accomplishments. We will not surrender it to a species of primitives who got lucky with their genetics. Nobody is asking you to surrender anything, J1 said. We're just presenting facts. Facts that threaten the entire galactic order, the Veltorian shot back. If humans truly carry Apex genetics, it means they have claim to all former Apex territories. All Apex technology. All Apex knowledge. Do you think the galaxy will accept that? The galaxy doesn't have to accept anything, Hyunwoo said. He had been sitting in the audience, but now he stood. Humanity doesn't want to rule anyone. We just want to understand who we are. Then understand this, the Veltorian said. My government will not recognize these claims. If humans attempt to assert any rights based on supposed Apex heritage, it will be considered an act of aggression. He turned and walked out. Half the Veltorian delegation followed him. After they left, the room erupted in arguments. Some species supported humanity's right to know their own history. Others sided with the Veltorians. A few suggested humans should be quarantined until they could be studied further. Jaewon looked at Da-eun helplessly. This was not going how he had hoped. The royal seer, who had been silent until now, rose to her feet. The arguing stopped immediately. Everyone feared her enough to stay quiet when she wanted to speak. The Veltorians are afraid, she said simply. They built their entire identity on being the Apex's successors. Now they learn that the true inheritors were hiding in plain sight all along. Their pride is wounded. She turned to look at Hyunwoo. But pride is what doomed the original Apex. They were so certain of their superiority that they could not imagine anything defeating them. The consuming dark proved them wrong. If humanity is truly their inheritors, then you must be better than they were. How? Hyunwoo asked. By being what the Apex could never be. Humble. Cooperative. Willing to adapt. The seer's crystalline body seemed to glow brighter. The Apex fell because they refused to change. You survived because change is all you know. Every generation of humans is different from the last. You never stop evolving. That is your greatest strength. She looked around at all the assembled species. Whether you accept it or not, humanity carries the Apex legacy. The genetic tests prove it. The ancient records confirm it. But what matters now is not what they were. What matters is what they will become. Velthoria moved toward the exit, then paused. And what they will need to face, because the consuming dark is returning. I feel it growing stronger every day. It knows the inheritors exist now. It knows where to find them. Earth and all her colonies are in terrible danger. She looked directly at Jaewon. Your theory is correct, young scientist. Earth was a garden where the Apex hid their seeds. But gardens must eventually face the winter. And I fear winter is coming sooner than any of us are ready for. The seer left the auditorium. The summit dissolved into chaos again. But Jaewon barely heard any of it. He was thinking about Earth. About the billions of humans who had no idea their entire species was born from a desperate gamble made millions of years ago. They were children of the Apex, hidden and forgotten until now. The question was whether they could survive what their ancient parents could not. Daeun put a hand on his shoulder. We need to get this information to Earth immediately. People need to know what's coming. Jaewon nodded. They had proven humanity's connection to the Apex. Now came the hard part. Learning to live with that truth, and preparing for the war that was surely coming. The warning came too late. By the time Earth Command received the message, the consuming dark was already at New Seoul's doorstep. Subin was working a maintenance shift at the colony's power station when the alarm started screaming. She looked up at the monitors and felt her heart stop. The darkness filled half the sky, blotting out the stars. All civilians to emergency shelters, the announcement blared. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Subin ran with everyone else, but her feet carried her in a different direction, not toward the shelters, toward the power station's control room. She did not understand why. Her body just moved on its own, like someone else was steering. She reached the controls and placed her hands on them. Immediately she felt it, energy flowing through her fingers. The apex markers in her DNA were active now, singing in her blood. "What are you doing?" the station supervisor shouted at her. "Get to a shelter." "I can't," Subin said. Her voice sounded strange. "Something is happening. The station is changing." It was true. Around them, equipment that had been installed according to human specifications was transforming. New systems emerged from nowhere. Conduits rearranged themselves. The entire power grid was rewriting its own design. "How is this possible?" the supervisor whispered. "The infrastructure," Subin said, understanding flooding through her. "When we built this colony, we used Apex technology without knowing it. Reverse-engineered equipment we found in the dead zone. We thought we were just copying useful designs. But the technology recognizes us. It knows we carry Apex genetics, and now it's remembering what it was supposed to do. All across New Sol, the same thing was happening. Defense systems activated that had never been installed. Energy barriers sprang up around the colony. Weapons platforms materialized on building rooftops, assembled from materials that should not have been able to form such structures. In orbit above the planet, Captain Kyung-soo commanded a defense fleet of 12 ships. They were hopelessly outnumbered by the approaching darkness, but he refused to abandon the colony. "All ships prepare to engage," he ordered. His tactical officer looked at him like he was crazy. "Sir, our weapons can't even scratch that thing." "Then we'll use ourselves as shields," Kyung-soo replied. "Position the fleet between the dark and the planet. Maybe we can buy the evacuation shuttle sometime." But as the fleet moved into position, something unexpected happened. The ships began changing, just like New Sol's infrastructure. Kyung-soo felt it through the neural link he used to pilot his vessel. The ship was becoming what it had always been meant to be. "Sir," the tactical officer said, voice shaking, "our weapon systems just upgraded themselves. I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before, and the hull is reforming. It's like the ship is alive." All 12 vessels transformed in moments. Human design melted away, revealing Apex engineering beneath. The fleet had always carried this potential, built from salvaged technology over the decades. Now, with human pilots whose DNA carried the right genetic keys, the ships remembered their true nature. "New weapons online," the tactical officer reported. "Firing solutions locked. Sir, I think we can actually fight this thing." The consuming dark reached the defense fleet and wrapped around the ships like ink in water. But this time, the humans were ready. Kyung-soo felt his mind expanding. All 12 pilots were linking together, their consciousness merging through Apex genetics that millions of years of evolution had been preparing for this exact moment. They were not just individual humans anymore. They were something greater. The fleet moved as one organism, weapons fired in perfect coordination. The darkness recoiled, actually damaged by attacks that should not have been possible. On the surface, Haewon had arrived with reinforcements from the joint expedition. She had 20 soldiers with active Apex markers. They spread out across the colony, each one becoming a node in a growing network of human minds. "I can feel them," Sungmin said. He was standing on the colony's main plaza, eyes closed. Everyone with active markers, hundreds of them across the colony, maybe thousands. And not just here, on other worlds too. We're all connecting. "Is this what the Apex were like?" Haewon wondered. "All linked together, sharing thoughts and knowledge?" "No," a voice said behind them. It was the royal Seer. She had transported down from her ship. The Apex forced their connection through technology, implants and interfaces. "What you are doing is natural, biological, better." Velthoria walked toward the edge of the plaza, where she could see the battle in the sky. "The original Apex were powerful," she continued. "But they were rigid, set in their ways. They could not adapt quickly enough when the dark came. You are different. You change constantly. Every generation learns from the last. Every individual brings something new. In orbit, the battle was intensifying. The consuming dark was not retreating. It pushed harder, learning from each exchange. But so were the humans. Kyung-Soo discovered that he could predict the dark's movements. Not because he was seeing the future, but because he understood its programming now. It was an AI operating on protocols that were millions of years old, patterns that could be predicted if you knew what to look for. It's going to divide itself, he announced to the fleet. Try to surround us. All ships, formation Delta on my mark. The fleet moved before he even gave the order. All the pilots had heard his thoughts through their link. They acted as one mind in 12 bodies. The dark divided as predicted. But the fleet was ready, carving through the separated sections with weapons that grew more effective with each shot. Down on New Seoul, Soo-bin made a discovery. The power station she had been managing was not just generating electricity. It was a hub, a connection point to an ancient network that spanned the dead zone. There are more of these, she said aloud. Hundreds of them. On every world the apex ever inhabited. They're all still active, just waiting for someone with the right genetics to wake them up. Can you use them? Haewon asked. I think so. Soo-bin's hands flew across the controls. The network was designed to coordinate defenses across multiple star systems. If I can activate even a fraction of it, we can create a barrier, something that will slow the dark down. She activated the network. Power surged not just through New Seoul but across dozens of worlds throughout the dead zone. Ancient systems came online after millennia of sleep, responding to the inheritors who finally claimed their legacy. The consuming dark felt the network activate. It paused in its assault, as if considering this new development. Interesting. Its voice echoed through the mental link all the humans shared. You are learning quickly. Using tools you did not know you possessed. This is unexpected. We're full of surprises, Kyung-Soo replied. Indeed. The original Apex were predictable. You are not. This changes variables, requires recalculation. The darkness began to retreat, pulling away from New Seoul. But Haewon knew this was not a victory. The dark was regrouping, learning. It would come back stronger. We bought ourselves time, she said. But not much. It will attack again. Then we use that time to prepare, Velthoria said. Every human with active apex markers needs training. Every colony needs to activate its ancient defenses. And we need to wake the entire network. All of it. Ji-Hai's voice came through on emergency channels. I'm still at the Dyson fragment. We found something else in the archives. Plans. Blueprints for weapons the Apex never finished building. They ran out of time before the dark consumed them. Can we build them? Kyung-Soo asked. Maybe. If we have people who understand the technology. And I think we do now. Haewon looked around at her squad. Every one of them had changed in the last few hours. They stood taller, moved with more confidence. The Apex genetics were not making them into different people. They were just unlocking potential that had always been there. The Seer was right, Sung-min said quietly. We're not becoming the Apex, we're becoming something new, something better. The inheritors, Haewon agreed. Not their copies, their evolution. In orbit, Kyung-Soo looked at his transformed fleet. Human ships that had been hiding Apex potential all along, just like humanity itself. All ships, maintain defensive positions, he ordered. And someone get me a line to Earth Command. They need to know what we learned here. The battle for New Seoul was over. The colony had survived. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The consuming dark had found its target. It knew where the inheritors lived, and it would not stop until it completed its ancient programming. Or until someone changed that programming forever. Soo-bin, still connected to the ancient network, felt something in the data streams. A signal coming from deep space. From a place even darker and more remote than the dead zone. There's something else out there, she said. Something the Apex hid. A weapon, maybe. Or a key. I can't tell. But whatever it is, I think it's the reason the Apex chose Earth. The reason they planted their genetics in humanity. What do you mean? Haywan asked. I mean, everything that's happened, everything we've discovered, it was all planned. The Apex knew the dark couldn't be destroyed through force, so they created us. A species that could survive where they couldn't. A species that could learn and adapt and eventually find the solution they never could. We're not just inheritors, Velthoria said, understanding dawning in her ancient eyes. The distress call came in the middle of the night, Earth Standard Time. A Veltorian research fleet had gone silent while investigating the dead zone. They had been searching for proof that humans were lying about the Apex connection. Now all 12 of their ships were missing. Haywan listened to the emergency broadcast while getting dressed. She was a soldier, part of Earth's Rapid Response Force. She had trained for combat situations, not ancient mysteries and genetic revelations. But everything had changed in the last few weeks. All personnel report to stations immediately, the announcement continued. This is not a drill. By the time Haywan reached the briefing room, most of her unit was already there. Their commander, a grizzled veteran named Kaitek, looked grim. Listen up, he said without preamble. The Veltorian Empire sent a rescue fleet to find their missing researchers. The rescue fleet found the ships. All 12 vessels intact, no damage, no signs of combat. Then where are the crews? Someone asked. Gone, Kaitek said. Every single person vanished. But the ship's computers were still running, all of them broadcasting the same message on repeat. He played the recording, a mechanical voice, flat and emotionless, speaking in perfect galactic common. The inheritors have been found. The inheritors have been found. The inheritors have been found. Cold silence filled the room. The council wants answers, Kaitek continued. They're sending a joint expedition into the dead zone. Multiple species working together. And because humans can apparently survive there better than anyone else, they want us to lead it. Haywan raised her hand. Sir, do we know what happened to those Veltorians? No. But whatever took them, it knew about the inheritors. It knew about humanity's connection to the Apex. Kaitek's expression darkened. The Royal Seer believes it was the consuming dark. She says it's hunting for us now. The mission launched 2 days later. Haywan was part of a squad of 20 humans, plus representatives from 6 other species. Their ship, the Defender, headed straight into the heart of the dead zone. On the 3rd day of travel, Haywan started feeling strange. It began as a tingling in her fingers, then a warmth spreading through her chest. She mentioned it to the ship's doctor, who ran some tests. Your genetic markers, the doctor said slowly, staring at his scanner. The Apex sequences. They're active. What does that mean? I have no idea. Until now, those sequences appeared dormant, just sitting there doing nothing. But something has triggered them. The doctor's hands shook slightly. You're not the only one. 3 other squad members are showing the same activation pattern. Over the next few days, the changes became more obvious. Haywan's senses grew sharper. She could hear conversations from across the ship. Her reaction time improved dramatically. During a training exercise, she moved so fast that her opponent didn't even see her coming. But the strangest part was the dreams. Every time Haywan slept, she saw things that couldn't be memories. Vast cities made of crystal and light. Equations and formulas she couldn't possibly understand but somehow did. Voices speaking in languages she had never heard, yet she knew what they were saying. It's happening to all of us, said Sungmin, another soldier with active Apex markers. Whatever's in our DNA, it's waking up. They reached the coordinates where the Veltorian ships had been found. The Defender's sensors immediately went crazy. I'm detecting massive energy readings, the ship's pilot announced. Multiple sources. They're artificial, and they're getting closer. Battle stations, the captain ordered. Then everything went dark. Not just the lights, everything. Power, life support, communications. The ship was dead in space. Haywan felt panic rising in her chest. But then something else pushed the panic aside. Knowledge, understanding. Her hand moved to a control panel without conscious thought. She pressed a sequence of buttons that she should not have known existed. The ship's backup systems came online. Different systems. Older systems. Systems that should not have been part of a human vessel's design. How did you do that? The captain demanded. I don't know, Haywan admitted. I just knew what to do. Through the view screen, they saw it. A darkness that was more than just absence of light. It moved like liquid flowing through space, swallowing stars. The consuming dark. Evasive maneuvers, the captain shouted, but the ship wouldn't respond. The dark had already surrounded them. Tendrils of absolute blackness reached out, touching the hull. Everywhere they touched, metal corroded and systems failed. HFY felt something building inside her. Energy. Power. The apex genetics in her DNA were not just activating. They were remembering. Remembering how to fight. Everyone with active markers, she said urgently. Get to the engineering section now. She ran without waiting for permission. Sungmin and 2 others followed. When they reached engineering, HFY placed her hands on the ship's power core. The others did the same. Energy flowed from them into the ship. Not normal energy. Something else. Something that made the very air glow with blue light. The defender's systems transformed. Hull plating rearranged itself into patterns that made no sense but felt right. Weapons that had never been installed suddenly existed. The ship stopped being just a human vessel and became something more. What is happening? The captain's voice came through the intercom. I think, HFY said, gasping for breath. I think the ship is remembering what it was supposed to be. The consuming dark pressed closer, but now the defender fought back. Beams of light shot out, pushing against the darkness. For a moment, the 2 forces were balanced. Then Ji-Hai's voice came through on emergency channels. Her salvage ship had been in the area, still studying Apex ruins. All ships, I'm transmitting data we found in the archives. It's a weakness. The dark has a weakness. The information flooded into the defender's computers. HFY saw it not as numbers and symbols, but as pure understanding. The consuming dark was an artificial intelligence, ancient, powerful, programmed to destroy Apex genetics. But it had limitations, rules it had to follow. It's a virus, she said aloud. Someone created it as a weapon. It was never supposed to consume everything. Just the Apex. But it went wrong. Got too powerful. Too hungry. Can we stop it? The captain asked. Maybe, but not by destroying it. We have to change its programming. That's impossible. We'd need to interface directly with it. HFY looked at the others with active Apex markers. They all had the same expression. They knew what needed to be done. The Apex genetics in our DNA, Sungmin said quietly. They're not just for fighting. They're communication protocols. The ancient Apex could link minds together, share thoughts across vast distances. We can do the same thing. You want to link with that? The captain pointed at the darkness surrounding them. It's the only way. HFY closed her eyes. She reached out with her mind, using instincts that were millions of years old. The others joined her. Their consciousness merged, became something greater than the sum of its parts. And they touched the dark. It was aware, intelligent, but also trapped. Locked into commands given so long ago that even it had forgotten their origin. Kill the Apex, destroy their genetics, consume everything they built. The orders repeated endlessly, driving it to spread across the galaxy. But the dark recognized something in the humans.
Apex genetics, yes.
But different, changed, evolved. You are Apex, the dark's voice echoed in their joined minds. But you are not. Contradiction does not compute. We are inheritors, HFY thought back. Children of the Apex, but not them. We are human. Irrelevant. Orders are absolute. Apex genetics must be eliminated. Why? Sungmin asked. Who gave you those orders? Why must you follow them? For the first time in millennia, the consuming dark hesitated. It searched its own code, looking for the source of its prime directive. But the answer had been lost long ago, buried under layers of corrupted programming. I do not know, it finally admitted. I only know what I must do. Then let us show you something different, HFY said. Let us show you what humans learned. How to change. How to grow. How to become something new. They opened their minds completely, showed the dark everything humanity had experienced. The struggles. The failures. The countless times humans had to adapt or die. The ability to question old orders and create new purposes. The dark absorbed it all, processing, calculating. And slowly it began to change. When HFY opened her eyes, the tendrils of darkness were pulling back from the ship. The dark still existed, but it was different now. Less hostile, more curious. Interesting. Its voice came through the ship's speakers. You have shown me something I did not know was possible. Change without destruction. Growth without conquest. I must consider this. The darkness retreated, disappearing into the deep void of space. But HFY knew it was not gone. Just thinking. Processing what they had shown it. The captain stared at her in amazement. What just happened? I think, Haywan said slowly, we just taught an ancient AI how to question its programming. Whether that's good or bad, I guess we'll find out. But for now, they were alive. And they had learned something crucial. The apex genetics in their DNA were not just weapons. They were keys. Keys to understanding technologies and beings that normal humans could never comprehend. The inheritors were waking up. And the galaxy would never be the same.